Thank you for checking in on the OMA Podcast and Videocast. We're going to do our best to provide great ideas, best practices shared by the OMA team members and partners. Hope you enjoy. Hey guys, we are here with John Burton. John is an absolute stud when it comes to the project management and relocation world. He has over 25 years of experience. He's been with Trammell Crow, PPM, JLL. He's had clients like Google, Nike, HP, and he's worked directly with Iron Mountain. John, please let me know if I'm missing anything. Can you give us a little bit of a nickel tour of how you spent the last couple decades of your life?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. As Mike pointed out, early in my career, I spent 10 years with Iron Mountain, learned a lot about the record storage industry, and that has changed tremendously. Parlayed from there into the moving industry. Was at Grable for quite a while and some local DC movers here. Went to Trammell Crow and started my stint in the project management business. So it's a big advantage to be able to know both sides of the business and understand realities and help customers understand what a mover can really do and help the movers understand what a customer really needs.
Well, I appreciate it, John. All right, so we are doing this extremely timely. We're trying to get a pulse on, really what's been happening the last 2 weeks in the marketplace. Why don't we start there? What are you seeing happening, say, from March 1, actually it's obviously more than 2 weeks, March 1 up till now, which is now April 7th as we speak. So what have you seen happen on projects? What have you seen put on hold? What are you seeing moving forward? Which verticals are growing? What are you seeing, John?
For the most part, the physical move portion has been put on hold. There are some mandatory for certain clients that things have to get done because they're mission critical or considered essential. But we really have to control what our people are exposed to, what our service providers are exposed to. But what I really see happening is when this all started, people thought they were going to be home for a week or two. It's expanded every week further and further and further. So the uncertainty is growing. But the one thing that's certain is that backlog of work isn't going to go away. It's there. And what we've been doing more than anything right now is redoing contingency plans and schedules and looking at making sure that our clients have the resources available to address the tsunami that's coming at the end of this. We are going back to work. Probably won't look like what it used to look like, at least for a while. So I think part of that process is trying to figure out how to best serve the client base given the new normal.
Hey, John, could you help us out as far as the demographics or the geography of where you're seeing projects? I know you're up in the DC, Virginia area. Are you talking primarily in that market, or are you seeing it across markets, John?
No, across markets. We're a national firm headquartered in Seattle. So there's quite a bit of activity going in Seattle. We also do construction management. So some construction projects are still going. We also do a lot in Silicon Valley. So some of those clients are looking to keep, especially the lab type clients that are continuing with their schedules for new product release and that sort of thing. They need the support. DC as well. There's a lot going on here with the federal government. There's a lot going on with contractors that support the federal government. So the activity is here. It's just different. And it's the folks that are reaching out and understanding the current needs and be able to pivot from what they're used to doing that are finding the opportunity.
Okay. All right. Are you seeing, corporate or government, are you seeing much different in response, or are they all kind of putting things on hold in a similar manner?
I would say they're all putting things on hold. Then the real push is planning for the next step. What do we do now? What is the new normal? And the firms that I see that are doing well are doing things to help in the interim. They're helping companies deal with their employees at home. Do they have what they need? They may be going to the firm's office, picking up equipment, delivering it and installing it at an employee's home. Or, things like that. There's a lot of things coming up that we need to think about that are going to allow us to move to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone, speaking to someone yesterday. A lot of the clients are concerned about putting their material into vehicles and touching crates, or should they go to boxes and the whole thing. So the old saying, if perceptions become reality, the way that your customers perceive you are taking this seriously or not, and if you're sanitizing your trucks and steam cleaning your trucks and steam cleaning your crates, and you let your customers know that, or whatever cleaning method you are going to utilize, when you put them at ease, getting them to engage again is going to be much easier.
Well, I'm gonna follow you down that rabbit hole. So what would be a really nice way? Obviously, we've got a lot of movers that are going to pay attention to this. You know, what are some ways that you would recommend them to communicate that with their customer? Can you think of, like, you know, can you give a couple tips on the best way to share that information?
Absolutely. You see, there's a lot of people that are on LinkedIn and Facebook that are saying, hey, we're here. Tell them what they can do, right? But what they're not saying a lot is why they're doing this, right? So I think you have to go to the why. Why are we going to go to your office and pick things up for you? We want to keep your employees productive. But there's also getting over the mental challenge, if you will, of people understanding, is it safe to even ask to have this done? So I think educating the end user, because they may not even be thinking about in front of mind that they're concerned about the sanitation or other things. So if you push that forward and say, hey, this is what we're doing, it helps ease their mind and lets them go to the next step.
I love that, John. So really, anybody that's listening here, the concept of sharing your best practices, you know, what are you doing to sanitize, whether it be a crate or your truck or any special things that you're putting in place. John really is absolutely brilliant on that tip. Kevin, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think that, again, John mentioned something very important. That's perception is reality. And we've got to understand as providers what the customer's perception is. So being proactive with some of these ways of showing them that we're socially responsible, that we are taking this serious, that it's not something that we're going to try to make them still do it our way, that we're able to adjust and do it the ways that they want, to consult them, to maybe help them do some things that they're not even thinking about yet. Mm-hmm. We talked about in an earlier podcast about how do we stay connected and have mind share with our customers, how to have emotional connection. This is a perfect way of doing that. You're bringing value through it. So perception is reality. I agree.
And Kevin, you had mentioned earlier, we were discussing earlier about looking to provide face masks for your crews.
Yep.
Right. So again, if that comes to fruition, the same thing, our crews will have, gloved, we'll have, face masks on. This is what we do with our trucks. This is what we do with our crates. I had someone I was talking to the other day that makes pre-calls like we're all used to doing in the industry. But part of the question is anyone there sick, showing symptoms? Is there anyone, they ask a series of questions, and they won't go into an office or a home that people have, the symptoms or been exposed to the virus, if the people are being honest with them, but at least they're asking the question.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And Mike, to follow up a little bit on that about with John and I's conversation, and the SRTs have seen the emails flying around, but what we're trying to do is, from an OMA standpoint, is it's tough to find these masks and sanitizers and gloves and those things right now. We know the quantities are limited. So what we're trying to do is find where pockets of procurement are that we can get these and facilitate it for our members, because we do want to help them give that perception of responsibility.
That's great. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to the sort of the current impact on the office. So we kind of see what's happening, what's being held back. We know what we can do to communicate well when it comes to what we're doing today. John, I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna ask you to get out your John Burton crystal ball. Just walk us through exactly when we're gonna open the country back up. No, I'm just kidding. You got
yeah. We're all going to Easter Sunday Mass. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh wait.
Yeah, I know it's real easy to keep a smile on our face now. If this thing goes out into July, there aren't going to be many smiling faces. So Okay, let's just walk through. Let's assume
Sure.
that May 1 is the day. I'm not asking you to get it out, but let's assume today's, we're getting into May 1. What do you see happening once we get from May 1? And again, if this sounds really stupid and someone listens to this 3 months from now and this is way off, I apologize. But where we're standing right now on April 7th, May 1 looks pretty realistic for us starting to slowly get back into the office. You want to kind of map out what you're seeing there, John?
Absolutely. So anybody that's watching the news, Dr. Fauci yesterday, was talking about what the new normal is going to be like. And until they have a vaccine for this or some kind of a cure, it's going to be some version of what we consider normal, and whether or not it'll actually ever come back to the things that we used to do, who knows? But we know for certain that things will come back, and there'll be pockets. New York is going to take longer to come back. Obviously, they're more affected than a lot of other states. California is doing really well. The governor shut them down early. Seattle is flattening out. So big markets like that are doing fairly well, and I think you're going to see it kind of spottily start to ramp back up. And one of the things that I see happening right now, and our teams are actually starting to do some of this, is getting the buildings ready for to be reoccupied. Sorry, they're calling it RTO, return to office. So I was talking to someone yesterday, pretty astute. I think they made up a word. They called it undensification.
Hey, that was me. Or
yeah.
was it de-densify? Hey. It may have been de-densify. I think it was it was definitely de-densify.
I don't think so. But anyways, if you read a lot of the articles, they're talking about what happens if they decide they want 6 feet of social distancing between every desk, right, or workspace. And everyone's gone into shared workspace or a workspace environment where there's workstation after workstation after workstation. So if you think about going 6 feet in any direction, they're going to lose a large part of their capacity. Let's say it's 50%. So as they start to let people back, people talk about they may just use every other desk. My opinion, I don't think that's going to work because you have people in front of you or people behind you. How do you do that? I believe they're going to have to remove the product and rearrange a work area and start putting markings on the floor. We've been doing this from a client at 6 feet. Like when you go to the grocery store, you're seeing this, right? 6 feet, and really go in and educate. So I think the upfront work that's available for your members is working with their clients and potential clients to get their buildings ready for the RTO or return to office.
That's fascinating. Can you go a little bit deeper into that if you can? So what's happening in like cafes and coffee areas, elevators? I'm really fascinated. Are we going one person on an elevator? Like, how do we do that, John?
We haven't got that far yet. I think what you're going to see is not crowded elevators, and you're probably going to see, letting 25% of the workforce come back into an office at a time, or alternating days. People go in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. But some portion of this is going to remain in a work from home environment, which also gives us another opportunity as an industry. Because people went home with their laptops, sitting at their kitchen table, next to their kid's high chair or whatever it is, and they thought they could do that for a week or two. But if it's permanent, they need a much different setup. Mm-hmm. So working with their clients to figure out what they need, being able to track what's delivered. For example, the workstations or sit stands you're taking out of an office, you may deliver to someone's home, or you may bring them back to the warehouse and store them till things start to move up a bit. Because most of the clients that have installed sit stands have been in the past couple of years. They're all new equipment. Mm-hmm. So they're going to need to have it removed. They're going to need to have some kind of a database that's tracking who has what when you start delivering it to the office. There's going to be, I mentioned Iron Mountain earlier, but I don't know how many of your members are into record storage. I mean, a lot of movers were in the day. We bought a lot of movers when I was at Iron Mountain, their storage capabilities. We bought 100 companies in 8 years. So we bought just about every box that was out there. But the companies that are going to start working from home and other things are going to need ways to get people the information they need. Now, look, granted, most of our information is electronic now, but there are certain industries, legal industry, for example, still a lot of paper, right?
All right, so files. I'm going to jump in there because I really think this is valuable, John. How, if you're a salesperson for a commercial mover, how are you going to run that play? Do I want to reach out to project management? Am I going to reach out to the end user? Am I going to reach out to facilities? Who do I want to run that play to as far as offering to help with the return to the office logistics? Where are we going to run that play, John?
Most of it's falling on the facilities folks, right? And even if the facilities is outsourced to a JLL, a CBRE, or something like that, they're not going to have the resources to support it. I think you're going to see a need for a temporary, quote unquote, workforce. They're going to have to sub this out because they're staffed to make the plans on what has to be done. Where I think the opportunity for your teams is implementing those plans, right? What is the safe distance? What are you going to do with elevators? What does the signage look like? Those are all industry experts, whether they be Gensler or HOK or whoever it may be. But then we have the opportunity of implementing the plans that the industry experts have designed or put in place.
I like that. So tell me again, could you just kind of go through that? What was the terminology, the return to work terminology that's kind of the word that the term that's being used right now? What is that?
De-densification?
No. We're talking about like the concept of us all going back into the office. We were talking about like the return to office. Is there a term that's being used right now?
No, it's RTO is what people are calling it.
And it is literally RTO, return to office.
Correct.
Well, I mean, the reason I ask is because as a marketer, I'm thinking, well, how do we market that to, the facilities people, to the commercial real estate groups, and even to the architects? Let the HOKs and Genslers know in your area, hey guys, look, we have an entire team that's capable of, whether it be putting table and floor, helping with your signage, helping with your reconfiguring, be there on a weekly basis to help sanitize. That RTO concept can really help a lot of the OMA partners here get through the next 60, 90 days. Because these next 60, 90 days can be a real problem.
And I would encourage all the members to read as much as they can about what's going on. Look, I talk to, architecture firms all over the country. Happen to know folks at HOK very well here in DC. So while not necessarily a plug for HOK, very good firm, on their website are some very good articles about this whole situation and what the new normal is going to look like in their estimation and what return to work looks like. So I encourage your folks to go out and read articles such as the ones on the HOK site, because it's going to make you a lot more conversant with your clients, and they're going to be looking to you to be an expert, because unless they're a big firm, there's no one at a 500 or 1,000 person company that really has any idea what to do in this situation.
Well, John, yesterday you and I were talking, and you mentioned that you used the term, they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And I think our job is to help them know some of these things, to come across as someone that can be of value to them during this RTO process.
Well, if you really think about it, as a salesperson in the moving and storage industry, or just about any industry, a lot of the job of a salesperson is to educate, right? Because people don't know, let's just break it down to simple. What's a good feature in a washer or a dryer, right? You go in and say, they're white, they're black, they're stainless steel, and they wash and dry. Well, not necessarily, right? So when we go in, and I'll use the example of valuation, right? People say, well, I'm already covered at 60 cents a pound. Great. So then you start explaining what valuation is, and they're used to hearing the word insurance. I don't want to go down a road explaining valuation. You all know what that means. But, there's an example of, especially in the household good world, well, I don't need it. Okay. God forbid it doesn't happen, but a truck rolls over and all your belongings are down in a canyon. You're going to wish you had spent that money. So just kind of giving an example, it's really, you don't want to use fear, but you want to be honest with them to think about, you need to be ready for this, which I'll kind of parlay this into something. And it's kind of hard to say to this audience, but it's reality. There are a lot of firms that aren't going to make it through this, right? So the firms that are doing what you folks are doing and trying to get ahead of the curve are smart. But what I'm getting at here is, I believe the supply is going to be a lot less. The available capacity when this is over versus the demand is going to be greatly diminished. So your opportunity now is to sell that story or that reality to potential clients and say, you need to secure your resources now. And have them understand so that you can plan too. And it makes sense because if you say, look, I'm filling out my books now for May and June and July or whatever it is. If you call me June 1st and need me June 5th, I'm not going to have any capacity. Now, we understand dates move and things like that, but let's try to get at least the initial stuff done, agree on T's and C's, agree on pricing, agree on scope, and let's get this started so we're not starting at ground zero when all this does break.
Mm-hmm. Mm. You'd said about the backlog, and that's not going to go away. Demand, we're in an odd time, but the backlog's not going to go away. When you say that, I'm thinking about, there's a lot of projects that are on the boards that our members know about, and they've been pushed. What you're saying and recommending is that they go and reach out to these customers and saying, okay, knowing what we know now, what do you think let's just say that it breaks open on May 1st or breaks open on June 1st. When will you be ready for this? When will you be ready to pull the trigger? When would you like me to have these resources in place? 2 weeks after it opens up or 2 months after it opens up? Are there things that you need to do beforehand, or are you ready to go? That way you can almost have your schedule and your demand and your labor resources lined up before. Is that what you're recommending?
Right. And I break it up into two things. I actually wrote an article and sent it to a lot of potential clients and clients over the weekend that talks about operational efficiency and operational readiness. So right now you want to be doing things to make you operationally efficient. When it does release, are they ready to go? So the things that we talked about, getting the building set up, getting 6 feet marked on the floors, having the desk removed and everything else, have that all done so that your operational efficiency leads to operational readiness. So you're planning to do it. So you have to get done with that planning portion that I call operational efficiency now to achieve operational readiness at day zero or day one.
John, repeat that, what you just said that was important, please. Okay.
So you have to achieve operational efficiency now. Going in, getting the workplace ready, making sure your equipment is ready, making sure your folks have the proper PPE, making sure that you've been speaking to your folks. This is important. And make note of this because we're doing it with our employees now. We need to listen to them and what they're afraid of and what their concerns are and make sure you're addressing them, because you may turn on the faucet. You may have crews that don't want to go because they don't understand, you don't have the equipment for them. So that's part of your operational efficiency. Deal with that now and let's get it out of the way so you understand what it's going to take for your crews. And you want to keep your crews safe as well. So it's a two-sided coin here. And that leads to the operational readiness. So it's like going to spring training in the major leagues, right? You're getting your operational efficiency done so when opening day comes, you got your swing down, your arms loosened up, you're in shape. And that's really what this is. It's spring training for the business to come back, to make an analogy.
That's a good one. Are you saying that just because you're near Washington and your team is the defending world champions? Is that why you're bringing up the baseball thing?
I'm a Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, Celtics fan through and through. I'm a Boston boy. I got Smart Park in my car.
Well, as a Braves fan, it was tough to see the Nationals win it last year because it was slightly painful. But all right, I love it. Guys, pay attention. Really, efficiency now, operational readiness. I mean, these are key terms. RTO, return to office. If these are new terms to you, that's okay because they're new terms to a lot of people. So pay attention to what we're hearing. If you need to go back the last few minutes, John just dropped some value bombs. Absolutely important that can help you bring insane value to your facility people. And what I love about what you're saying, John, is it puts everyone in a position of servitude. How do I serve you? You've got these new things, this new floor taping, and we're reconfiguring spaces and elevator signage. How do I serve you, because you're learning it too? How do I bring that? I love it, John. I really do. I think it's super important, and it's a great position for every single OMA partner listening to this to come from. Very powerful.
Yeah. And look, I know a lot of you on this call already. I've been around. I spoke at your conference a few years ago. Kevin knows how to get a hold of me. Mike Maddox knows how to get a hold of me. Don, many of you know how to get a hold of me. I'm always here to answer questions as well. Look, we're all in this together, right? If we have to succeed together or we're going to fail together, because this is unprecedented. We have never seen anything like this. So there's no rule book. And, if you have other ideas, I'd love to hear them. And if I'm just kind of swinging it here a little bit and making commitments for you, Mike and Kevin. But if you have certain questions you'd like to be addressed in maybe a future podcast, send them in and we can assess it. I'm happy to come back on and address specific questions about, well, what about this? I just think it's valuable to talk. I mean, every day I'm talking to people pretty much all day and learn something new every day because it changes every day.
Well, we would be humbled to have you, John. You really would be, and that's a great idea about maybe at least making this a more regular thing until we're through this. I really appreciate it, John. That's very generous of you.
Happy to help.
So, what's a good way for people to get in touch with you if they did want to kind of reach out? You wanted to reach out to you, LinkedIn, email. What's the best way to grab you, John?
Probably the best way to grab me is to just send me a text. I'm happy to give you guys my number.
I will. Hey, John, I'll make sure everyone in our organization gets your contact information.
Okay,
great. Perfect. That's perfect.
And if I call you back and you see Laguna Beach come up, yeah, that's an old phone number. And it's pretty nice when people see that. I wish I was there right about now. But
yeah. Well, that's good. John, last tidbits. I want to kind of wrap today up because we're going to have you back and we'll have even more value on the next one. But walk me through what are the last things that people could do. Again, today we're recording this April the 7th. I'm probably going to send this out raw with Kevin so we can get it out to everybody sooner than later. What do we do now, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th? What would you do if you're a commercial mover to get you through from the 7th to the 15th of April?
Number one thing that I would be doing is figuring out what your clients need or potential clients. You have things coming up. You had mentioned the servitude, the servant model. David Grable used to say this a lot. He was a very wise man. How can I help? You have to stop selling. You have to listen and understand what they need. And if they don't know, that's when you can start saying, have you thought about it? Mm-hmm. But right now, people are they're in uncharted waters. And think about when someone is assigned to run a move in normal circumstances. So we've all run into this person that was either asleep in a meeting or absent that day and was assigned the responsibility of running a move, right? And we all have heard everybody says it's OMA that, 40% of people assigned to run moves lose their jobs. I've never seen it written. I've used it for years because it kind of makes sense. But,
sure.
So take that in a normal situation and then exponentially multiply it with COVID. These people are scared. I can't say that word, but they're really scared, right? And they're looking for someone to help them get through. So that's what I would be pushing, is contacting prospective clients, existing clients. How can we help?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd be remiss if I didn't say you didn't help us a lot today. It was really powerful. Your insight and your pragmatism are definitely appreciated by this group, and we really appreciate you.
Yeah. Happy to help, as I've said.
John, thank you very much.
All right, well, let's wind it up now. And again, if anybody needs anything, Kevin is going to send everyone John's info. And again, thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.